advisor growth series that we're kind of running here, we talked a lot about, the dilemma in the industry. We talked about the teaming and some of the pros that go along with it. But there's also a negative side of teaming that I see has been happening in our industry forever. I mean, I got into this business during the tech bubble burst, and I worked on a team for a while. And I just want to cover some of those things because I'm sure there's advisors that are watching this that have these issues happening, and it's something that we're trying to change here. So, you got in the business. We had the good fortune of meeting each other a while ago, and this was a great relationship for both of us. But I mean, what did you see when you were in the training program? What did you hear from other advisors that were kind of in a similar spot that you were?
Yeah, so you see a lot of different scenarios. You see the people who kind of get stuck and can't find anyone to team with. You feel bad for that person because you
Yeah.
need that help. And at the other end of that spectrum, you feel bad for the people who got forced into a relationship by a manager, and they're in a teaming scenario where there's no connection and no rhythm and no commonality
Yeah.
amongst the team, and that can create almost an even worse situation than is if you were alone. Those relationships, when there's no solid foundation behind them and no trust, it's very hard to then find clients who trust you when they don't even trust each other.
Yeah.
So I think that was a pretty common theme, is just there were some forced relationships where there really was no commonality or reason for teaming,
And
other
I think
than
I think what happens when that happens, and what I've seen when I was going through the same process, because I was one of those people that was right in the beginning, like I'd just gotten out of my training program, and it was like the beginning of teaming. And so they were doing that with me, like,
yeah.
all right, who are you good for in the office? But one of the problems that I see is that when you're in the beginning, like you have people that you can bring to the table. Most of these advisors always have a couple not clients, relationships that they can make introductions to. And now they're forcing these introductions to somebody just because they have to meet goals, but they're forcing them to somebody that they may not necessarily be comfortable in the long run having them work with. But that relationship, once it's engaged by a financial advisor or it's engaged inside of a firm, these things are hard to move, right? Like, firms do a really good job at trying to lock in clients by adding different services that kind of tie them up. And, you have a junior advisor who's working with a senior partner, and the senior partner's name is on the statement, and that's the person that the junior partner's relationship is engaging with. So if it doesn't work out for this junior partner and this junior partner wants to give it a go at another place, it's going to be really hard to take these relationships with them.
Yeah, and that's the other issue too, because you're forced to hit your hurdles and find these
Oh,
relationships.
yeah.
And if you're just you have no choice but to work with this person,
Hmm.
you're doomed, because you have to bring them in front of this other person who you're not sure if you're going to work with in another year or two.
Yep.
But at that point, the relationship knows this other name on that's on their statement,
Hmm.
and you're a bit handcuffed.
Yeah.
So it can create a pretty uncomfortable position for you down the line.
Yeah, and I also think that what happens with that as well is now you're in this world. And one thing I see a lot of junior advisors never really think about is the legacy plan. They always think, oh, this advisor is going to pass me business. They're going to help me grow. And I hate to break it to them, but they're not. Like, they're just not. It's not, it's very rare in our industry that you find that individual that's like, yeah, I have you. Come along with me and I'll build your practice. It's not the case. So now you're stuck in this relationship. It's really hard for you to leave. It's really hard for you to get out. You're not making as much money as you think you should be. And then thinking about, where you are in the hierarchy. I've seen so many times this is forced together. And then the junior partner realizes that the senior partner has, a son or a daughter graduating from college, and now they're on the team. So like, what,
Exactly.
what are you getting business? You're not getting anything,
Yeah.
right? All you're doing is supporting their growth. So you really need to make sure that you have a synergy with that person, that you trust that person, and that you are a part of like that long-term overall macro vision.
Absolutely. That it's a sustainable relationship that benefits both of you,
Yeah.
so that there's a reason to continue that over the long term, and that you don't look back after the first 3 years of that relationship and say, oh man, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
I'm stuck now, and there's no potential for growth for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And plus, simultaneously, at the end of the day, you're splitting your business. So, like, not only are you going through all of this, that senior person, even if they're only getting 30%, like, they're getting a portion of your business.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's a tough thing. So, for new advisors, again, we're going to cover a lot of how we have created an environment here that is completely different than that. It's built to help advisors thrive and give them a longer runway. But if you find yourself in this position, then just make sure that there's a synergy, there's an energy, you're part of the long-term plan. You're getting your fair share out of that business. And if there's ever any low-hanging fruit, creating some type of a, not a contract, but like a handshake agreement where you're basically saying, listen, like, I have no problem referring you business and you getting 30%. But if there's anything under $250,000 that comes in, I feel like I rate 30% of that, because a lot of times firms don't even pay on that stuff.
Yep.
But at least you can get experience talking to other people, and maybe you can cultivate that relationship in the future to be larger with a rollover or some other new business that you find. And at least that gives you a little bit more vested interest inside of the growth of the team.
Great advice.